Welcome back to The Jump. We're going to talk a little collective bargaining agreement since the deal reached this week will influence the NBA for the next 6 years. Now, the biggest wrinkle is the clear attempt to prevent future super teams. Brian's been calling it the Kevin Durant rule. Basically, teams will now be able to offer their homegrown superstars extensions that are longer, they're for a lot more money than the contracts that those same players could get if they do become free agents on the open market. So take DeMarcus Cousins, for instance. Assuming he meets the new criteria, he could sign a 6-year extension with the Kings this summer for about $235 million. Or if he decides to wait a year and go to a different team, the most he could get is about 4 years, $138 million, which is, still a lot of money, but for those of you counting along at home, $100 million less. Now, even for a guy like Boogie, who has felt marooned in Sacramento over the years, that would be a lot to turn down. And oh, by the way, and yet another testament to how business savvy the Banana Boat crew is, let's not forget that this whole deal was negotiated by a union being led by Chris Paul, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and friends. And guess who is getting a major sweetheart deal in this new CBA? Older stars. It used to be that teams were protected from having to give their aging stars huge contracts if the star was going to turn 36 during the life of the deal. But now that moves up to 38 years old, just in time to benefit, these guys. I'd be toasting too if I were them. Now I want to dive more deeply into
Born
the
at the wrong
super
time,
team.
Trace. Born at the wrong time.
I mean, he did okay. Let's not pretend
I'm not crying.
he didn't do
I'm not
okay.
crying for him. I'm just telling you, he's born at the wrong
But
time.
trust me, those guys, look, you could have been in charge of the union. They knew what they were doing when they decided to take that on. They were like, and let me just write this in for myself here. Let me just put this in. I do want to get to the super team issue, though, because they put in this thing to basically say, we're going to prevent you or try to, disincentivize you from going off and joining your buddies. So, Tracy, if you were Paul George or Anthony Davis or Russell Westbrook, who's going to be facing this in a year or two.
What are you asking? What are you asking me?
Would
Right?
$100 million. That's what she's asking me.
Freedom or more money for more years?
Really? These guys will be a fool to, I guess, test their freedom and look for other teams. If I could get $230 million for what?
Okay, but compared to $130 million. I mean, it's not like you're getting nothing on the other side.
No, Rachel. No, you'll be a damn fool. I mean, if you want a championship that bad, look, I had some guys, when I played in Orlando, used to reach out to me because they needed money because it was broke because they didn't take care of their funds. Go buy one of them championship rings. I mean, come on, man. Look, I'm not leaving $100 million on the table. I'm sorry. DeMarcus Cousins, you're stuck. Paul George is stuck. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not just, gee, they're not going to get a championship, probably, but we talk all the time. Poor Anthony Davis, he's stuck night after night.
Man, look, we play this game to take care of our family. Yes,
right.
We all enjoy the competition and want to win the ultimate goal. But at the end of the day, no.
It's a golden handcuff situation, is what it is.
I mean, look, we feel bad for no one in this situation.
Right.
It will, though, the way it will, that to me is the unintended consequence, that you might end up with guys with these like Chris Webber-style contracts or Gilbert Arenas-style contracts that not only a guy is stuck in a franchise, maybe they don't want to be in for 6 or 7 years, but then the franchise is stuck paying that money out if things don't go well, if a guy gets injured, and we've seen the devastating effect that that's had. So that's one side. The other side is what it is supposed to do, which is not only prevent the super teams in the first place, but maybe break up one of the biggest super teams, right?
Well, exactly. I think if the Warriors had an extraordinary amount of information come at them in this CBA. And the good news is this. They're going to be able to keep Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. There's no hard cap. There's no new rule that's going to prevent these guys from keeping it. That's the good news. The bad news is when these guys re-sign, they're going to have no money pretty much for anybody else. There's basically 3 options. Either Durant, Curry, Andre Iguodala, and Stan Livingston all take pay cuts.
Not happening.
It's an option, but not likely. 2, they're going to have to fill out the whole back end of the roster with minimum salary players. Or 3, at some point, not this year, but maybe next year, they're going to have to trade one of their core players because those 4 guys under the new CBA are going to combine to make $106 million next year.
Yeah, so the problem is if I'm a bench player, and yes, I want to win a championship. If I go play for a championship team, but they really can't offer me that much because they have, these 3 or 4 guys that they're paying. If I go somewhere else and what the average is $9 million now,
right.
what's the league mid-level exception?
It's going to be about $8 million.
You can't. You just
right.
You
Can't turn that down.
No, you can't turn that down.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
going
Which
to
is
be
why
tough.
they may have to break a $100 bill to get some 20s and 50s if they're going to want to keep this team.
Yeah, I mean, you can, go out here and get 3 All-Stars, but your bench is going to be depleted. You're not going to have any talent on your bench.
No room for error
No.
in injuries either.
And possibly not the same kind of behemoths that we've seen. I do want to move on to a guy who benefited from the last CBA, the $98 million man. Not too bad either, Hassan Whiteside. Y'all remember this?
I see a lot of guys in the NBA getting triple doubles with assists. Ain't nobody doing it with blocks. So I knew I had to come out here and nobody's doing it with blocks.
Little trash talk there from Hassan Whiteside, letting him know you can get the triple-double with blocks as one of your stats. And now he's letting the media know he doesn't want to be compared to DeAndre Jordan. When asked by the Miami Herald if their games are similar, he said, quote, "No, he catches lobs, I shoot jumpers, catch lobs, block shots. I do a lot, he just catches lobs." Now, that sure sounds like trash talk to me. But this morning, Whiteside walked it back a bit. In text to ESPN's Jeff Goodman today, he said, quote, "DeAndre, one of the top centers in the NBA. My comments were misinterpreted."
No, they wasn't.
How? But he is a really good player.
No, it wasn't.
No?
No. In some part of that, he told the truth.
Right.
I mean, it's facts. He is more skilled offensively than DeAndre Jordan. Yes, he could shoot a little 14, 15-foot jumper. DeAndre Jordan can't do that. Where I disagree is he just doesn't catch lobs. I mean, DeAndre Jordan is a huge value on the defensive end. I mean, he could easily be Defensive Player of the Year every year. He's a hell of a rebounder. So, no, he just doesn't catch his lobs.
Most coaches and GMs in this league would take DeAndre Jordan
Absolutely.
ahead of Hassan Whiteside because DeAndre Jordan knows how to fill a role and be a team player. That's Hassan Whiteside's biggest detriment, and it's why the Clippers are a lot better team than the Heat. I mean, they're not comparable talent-wise, but DeAndre Jordan does a lot better at doing that, and maybe Whiteside will get there. One thing they do have in common, they both got offered a max by the Dallas Mavericks and both turned them down. So maybe the Mavericks would be the best to ask on who was better or worse.
Well, I would take DeAndre Jordan.
Right?
Just the impact that he has.
Yeah,
on the
I mean, just a maturity factor right now. And you're right, that might change. But at the moment, I do want to move on to the bizarre situation in Houston. This is just, you and I have been talking about this for days.
Yeah.
Last night, the Rockets renounced their rights to Donatas Montejunas, who now becomes an unrestricted free agent. This is less than a week after they signed Montejunas to a 4-year, $31 million deal. And let's not forget, 3 weeks after they matched an offer sheet for less money from the Nets. And into the interim, Montejunas has failed physicals. He's refused to report to practice. I mean, the list it's ridiculous.
My question is, he's a pretty damn good player.
Yeah.
He can play. What went wrong last year that this guy doesn't want to be a part of this organization?
Well, I'll tell you. I'll give you the answer. He got traded last year.
They
Don't
traded
forget
him
about
away
this.
to Detroit.
To Detroit, and the trade got voided. This has been the strangest situation in the 15 years I've covered the NBA in terms of contractual negotiation. He has made some tactical mistakes here.
Some?
He mishandled the offer sheet. He mishandled how he came back to the Rockets. But I'm going to tell you this. He's a unrestricted free agent now. He's been dealing with restricted free agency, basically which he would probably call hell for the last few months. He could still end up winning. He could still end up walking away with a deal that was richer. But you know what? The Rockets are competing to get a top 4 seed in the West. They could have used this player.
Yes.
And I understand that his back is an issue, but this may not end up working out better for either of them in the long
He
run.
wants to be there.
And the
I think
poor,
that's pretty
well,
hefty.
yeah, he's not there anymore. And poor Nets, by the way, who did all the work on the competing offer sheet, and they are the one team who can now not sign him
bizarre.
as an unrestricted free agent. Before we go to break, I want to talk about Kawhi Leonard, the 2-time Defensive Player of the Year. There is a super interesting article on CBSSports.com pointing out how the Spurs defense actually gets statistically worse when Kawhi is on the floor. I know that sounds impossible, but it is true. They are giving up 13 more points per 100 possessions when Kawhi is out on the floor. And Tracy, are you surprised at this? Or once you break it down and look at the clips, you see it?
No, I think once you break it down and look at the clips, you obviously see why they are I guess, give up more points while he's out there. Because he's not in the plays. If you look at this right here, this is just great coaching. Now he starts on the ball, and the play is going away from Kawhi Leonard, so he's away from the play. You can't have no impact if you're on the weak
They
side.
just keep marooning him. Is that right? Opposing teams?
Absolutely, and this is a smart thing to do because the guy is such a great defender. He impacts the game on both ends of the ball, or the floor. And right here, he's just been a spectator. And
Hey,
I can
that
see
was
what-
Rondo taking a jumper. That was good defense, actually. This is the charge for Tim Duncan leaving because they've had to change their defensive strategy so much with Gasol and Marcus Aldridge. But if I was Draymond Green, who wants that Defensive Player of the Year award from Kawhi, I'd be printing this article out, passing it out to voters.
Yeah.
I mean, it is interesting. I got to think that Pop, as a tactician, is going to then figure out a way to
Right.
sort of reintegrate.
It's a
him.
crazy number, though. I mean,
It
it's
is.
bizarre. And I appreciate you pointing out, Tracy, but I'm going to tell you, on its face, it's one of the strangest statistics I've
It
seen all
really
season.
is.
Right?
I don't buy into it, though. I mean,
And obviously, he's still, no one's going to sit there and say, oh, Kawhi isn't good for your
Right,
defense.
right.
And the Spurs obviously are but
They're still
21-5
fifth in the league
right
in
now.
defense.
Yeah, and they're 21-5 right now. But it is a quirk, and it is fascinating to look at. We are going to take a quick break, but first it is time for our distant replay. This is the one and only J.R. Smith from this date in 2010.
Really for anyone. So you kind of see how it's affecting Tony Parker.
oh.
Crossover.
Oh.
Oh,
Larry Nance before Larry Nance.
looking mellow. I love JR. Seriously, I love
And
JR
he
Smith
jumps
playing
off the
basketball.
wrong leg. That's incredible. He jumps off the right leg for a right-hander.
A couple more feet.
Oh, he should have
People
got
don't
he almost got
understand
a tee
that.
for
He
hanging on the
is
rim.
stronger jumping off the wrong leg.
Amazing. JR. Yesterday was such an emotional day for all of us. Just as we were starting our show, the news broke of our friend Craig Sager's death. And I have to say, though, it was cathartic in the hours after we got off the air to see the tributes pouring in. It was amazing, right? I mean, words of respect from every major figure in the NBA, the Vice President of the United States, billboards, and then as evening fell and the game started, there were the Sager Strong signs. I mean, just everywhere. The Milwaukee Bucks ran out for warm-ups in Sager T-shirts. Greg Popovich, who, for years had that Statler and Waldorf thing going on with Craig, was visibly shaken, and he spoke before the game.
If any of us could display half the courage he has to stay on this planet, to live every life as if it's his last, we'd be well off. We all miss him very much.
It was really amazing. In arena after arena, they celebrated Craig Sager. Steve Kerr led Warriors fans in not a moment of silence, as he put it, but a moment of joy, which was amazing. And Kerr, of course, used to work with Craig at TNT. And as the night wore on, he made it clear where his thoughts were.
I'm not thinking much about this game, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm thinking about Craig and his family, and I'm glad we could honor him, but we're going to miss him.
As usual, the Inside the NBA crew was also stellar. They just showed such incredible grace in the face of so much sadness.
Everybody dies, but very few people live. And Craig Sager lived, and he fought a valiant battle.
Most people get one day of tributes, but day two, this morning, the tributes kept coming for Craig. Here was Kobe Bryant on Mike and Mike.
He was one of the rare reporters that could come up to an athlete and the athlete feel completely comfortable to be able to be open with him. And that's a rare gift to have.
And look, for many people, the last time they saw Craig was at the ESPYs over the summer, but he did make a video just a couple weeks ago, and I think he'd want us to play it to let fans know he had seen the outpouring of love directed at him.
Hi, NBA fans. I'm Craig Sager.
I'm Riley Sager. And I'm Ryan Sager. We'd like to thank our NBA family for their unwavering support in our fight against leukemia.
The owners, front office, coaches, players, and in particular, the fans.
Look, seeing Craig like that, it isn't easy. But that is not how I'm going to remember Craig Sager. For me, it will always be the personal moments. The first time I met Craig, when he tapped me on the shoulder at a basketball game in Washington, or the first time he introduced me to his wife, Stacy. He was so proud to be married to her. He acted like he was having me meet the Pope. There were the chats we had before games at arenas, then, of course, post-game. Those conversations may have continued at bars all over America. We were often interrupted by fans who really just wanted to get near him and get a picture. But many times, Craig, he wouldn't just stop and do the camera click. He'd have the person sit down. He'd invite them to just come talk sports with us because he loved it all. And he wanted to soak in absolutely everything and everyone he could. And in the end, that is what I will take away from my time on this earth with Craig, that there is joy everywhere. You just have to be willing to open your eyes see all the colors. What about you, Tracy?
And all the colors.
All those crazy colors.
For me, there's a couple things. Number one, as a NBA player, for my being drafted, shaking the commissioner's hand, then my first interview is Craig Sager.
You made it, baby.
Yeah, what? That stands out. And then back in December, I talked about this yesterday, my greatest game as an NBA player, when I scored 13 points in 35 seconds against San Antonio, and just one of the most memorable comebacks in NBA history. And I really couldn't control myself because I couldn't believe what I just, did. And, who comes up to me, it was Craig Sager on this historic night. And again, he will always be with me because, he interviewed me on the best night of my NBA career.
We have the interview, actually. I think
Oh, really?
you guys can play it.
Do we?
You guys were so far behind. They had the ball a few seconds. They turn it over. How did you get the ball? What were you thinking?
Well, we were supposed to just trap and go for a steal. Unfortunately, fortunate enough the guy slipped. Ball came right to me. And the only thing I was thinking about, I didn't want to tie the game. So I was thinking about getting up a three. Got it up. Ball game. I never been a part of anything like this. So you got it.
All right, well, Blake, I hope you get a chance to get to look at the replay, but that's why you're the NBA scoring champ.
I appreciate it, Kurt.
That's so nice, right?
Yeah.
I don't know
He
what's
hasn't
better.
stopped looking at the replay. He watches the replay every day.
Well, I don't know what's better, the joy on your face as you were talking to Craig or the pout on Craig Popovich.
That was
Captured
classic.
there for a moment.
Back in 2012, also involved Popovich. That was the night where the Spurs rested their star player, sent him home on a Southwest Airlines flight from Miami.
Right. It was supposed to be the big rematch, right?
Big rematch of the finals, and it was on TNT. And so during the game, David Stern fines the Spurs $250,000. Doesn't wait till the next day, during the second quarter. And so after the game, we're in the hallway and we're like, how are we going to ask this question? Are we going to ask him about the fine? What are we going to do? And Craig says, I'll take care of this. Strides in, asks Pop 2 questions, gets absolutely no answers. Pop walks back into the locker room, says, beat it. And I was like, well, I'm glad Craig did that and I didn't have to do it.
I mean, it is amazing. And seeing all these memories, right, over the past 24 hours, 12 hours, however long it's been, I can't keep track. It feels like a long time. The tributes from his children have been amazing, and his family. And I think, what we heard Charles Barkley say there in the clip, that, this was a guy who lived, who truly lived. We all have a limited amount of time here. We all have a limited amount of influence on the people around us. And the fact that he made the most of every moment that he had, again, long before he was diagnosed with leukemia. This is not something that just popped up when he realized he was sick. That is something that he influenced a lot of people for such a long time and appreciated life and appreciated the world around him for such a long time. It was truly special. He will be so missed by our NBA family. And we use that expression a lot, but it actually does mean something to the people in and around the game. Craig was such a big part of that family, and he will always be a part of that family going forward.